Tom, I don't know if you listened to Hunter Yurchek, the 20 or 30 minutes yesterday, but it sure seems to be a lightning rod for the conversation this morning. Just what are your thoughts about some of the things he discussed revolving NIL and currently where it is in Arkansas football?
Right, and good morning, guys. Always a pleasure. I read Wally Hall's column, and I saw our coverage of it. I haven't listened to the whole deal, but the biggest takeaways obviously were that Arkansas has roughly 1,000 people donating to its NIL, and he compared that to 5,000 for Ole Miss, and compared that to Ole Miss's place in the conference right now and ranked, fifth in the country. I mean, they got their collective going at a quicker pace, and another takeaway was he felt like Razorback football would be very competitive in Auburn on this weekend, and I just happened to have bumped into Hunter on the sidelines at the ends of both of the last two games. During overtime at Oklahoma State, chatted with him just a little bit, and then last week, right before the end of the UAB game, and I can take this in another tangent about the psychology involved in games, but yeah, those are my takeaways from what I read about Hunter's appearance yesterday.
Now, you mentioned getting a chance to chat with him after that game and kind of what they expected Auburn. I think for one individual on that football team, Travis Williams, going back home, I know he's originally from Columbia, South Carolina. His defense did not have a good showing last year against the Tigers. How do you think the defense will show up this weekend, Tom, after the showing last week at UAB, and then you parlay that with what they did against the Tigers last season?
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing I wanted to talk about with you guys today was the psychology of the game-to-game makeup of teams. So Arkansas put so much into that Oklahoma State game plan, and it was a great game plan. And without the turnovers, they win it and possibly win it handily. And so there's a letdown. There's a mental letdown when you put so much into a game and you don't win it. You come back home. You're going to play a team that just got beat 32-6 against Louisiana Monroe, who, there's not a whole lot of hype around Louisiana Monroe football. Mm-hmm. And they lose by 26 points to this team. And so I think there was a general feeling among the players that, they would be able to just out-athlete UAB and win the game. So that's one part of the psychology. From UAB's standpoint, they were embarrassed against Monroe and know that they have good talent on their team and playmakers, and they have a system. And they spread the ball around. They got to the edges some. They established their run a little bit against an unsuspecting team. Well, not unsuspecting, but just a team that felt like they would just out-athlete them. Yeah. So there's all kind of psychology at play here. Then it's the embarrassment Arkansas felt last year at home when they could not contain the RPO game with Peyton Thorne and wanting to bounce back from that and make a better show. Arkansas has been a better road team under Sam Pittman the last couple of years, and that's shown by the results, even against tough opponents. So there's a whole lot at play here, and what I expect is a very close game because of all that.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. It's brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, will the loser of this game be bowl eligible at the end of the year? I think this is a huge matchup for who will be and not be bowl eligible. Do you think the loser of this game on Saturday makes a bowl game?
Well, I haven't thought through it that far, but since both teams already have a non-conference loss in a marquee game, and I think you could easily win the argument that Auburn's was more damaging, I guess, to its bowl hopes. Because it was at home and it was against Cal, a team they feel like they should have beaten. That it all depends on what the team's response is to this loss. Because after Arkansas's appearance at Oklahoma State, you start thinking, okay, if they play this way against other teams on their schedule, then you could see them having a chance to beat Auburn and A&M the following week, and Tennessee at home after that, and be in games against LSU and maybe Ole Miss and so on down the line and have a chance. Arkansas' schedule is very daunting with all those home games against teams that are in the top 10 right now. Very daunting. So for Arkansas in particular, winning this game could spur them on. I mean, you would think they'd have a shot to win at Mississippi State. and then, Louisiana Tech they should beat. So you just got to get up to 6 to get bowl eligible. But I haven't looked deeply at what Auburn's schedule looks like. They have Oklahoma coming in right after this, and they opened the season with 5 consecutive home games, which if you hear Sam Pittman Monday talking about it, it's like they're at home again, and we're playing a different place for the 4th week in a row.
Who is Arkansas's number 2 pass catcher? Who is the one they'd like to establish behind Armstrong as the second go-to wide receiver or pass catcher? I know that it has to be a receiver, but who's the number 2 target right now in this offense?
That's a great question. We're still learning what Taylor Green's strengths are and all that, but it should be Luke Has, right? I mean, he's got the talent for it. He was off to a great start. They have things in the game plan for him. Some of it were covered up. Some of it, if Taylor Green's facing pressure and moving around in the pocket, it blows up what you want it to do. So I think because they have shown some vulnerability against some max blitzes, that they've got to get their hot read game going and get it more refined. And obviously a guy like Luke Has would be key in that. And also like your slot guy, like Isaiah Satania. But my initial thought would be that Has needs to be, and then, they've got to go back to Broden. I know he had some drops. I know, Armstrong, Taylor overthrew him a few times last week, but you got to keep going back to him because he's a matchup problem.
And I wonder on that standpoint, Tom, this offensive line has looked really strong in the run game. What have you maybe noticed in some of the passing block deficiencies that maybe they can shore up this week against an SEC defensive line, even with maybe shaking things up with depending on how Nichols plays on Saturday?
Right. Well, so what Sam is, he's pretty blunt about this, that when they're getting zero coverage, max blitzing, that they've struggled against that some. And so if Auburn hasn't done a ton of it, but I think obviously they'll try to amp it up, because if you can shake up a quarterback, that's the number one way to blow up. If you can blow up 3 or 4 different series over the course of a game because you sent max pressure and the quarterback either threw a pick or the ball got batted away or just something, and it blows up 3rd down, then you're on your way to a victory. So I think the back understanding who he has to pick up, and then the hot read game are your answers to that. And I think they've been largely assignment sound, but Sam Pittman admitted some of the missed assignments on the max blitzes the other day, and some of it was a communication issue. Mm-hmm. And so at Auburn, that's going to be even more amplified because you had that in a home game, Tommy,
in your opinion, is that maybe a reason Braylon Russell is not getting as many snaps? Not because he can't run the football, but maybe some of the extracurricular stuff that the casual fan doesn't think about with pass protection and so on.
Well, certainly it would play into whether or not, how often he's on the field. But also, let's consider this. JaQuindon Jackson is one of the top backs in the country right now. Yep. I mean, he's running with power. He's running with great vision. He's had some jump cuts. Think about the number of times he has been in the 2nd and 3rd level running free. I'm not sure through 3 games if Arkansas has had more running backs free in the secondary than they did all of last year. Mm-hmm. So that's something to consider as well.
He's been phenomenal. Leads the SEC right now in touchdowns. He's either 1st or 2nd in yards, and I think slightly under 400 just because of some lost yardage plays. He's been great. Tom, we'll talk more about Auburn on Thursday. Appreciate your time and insight this morning, and we'll see what happens on the Plains later on this week.
All right, can't wait to talk to you guys again. See ya.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.